Hey everyone! Welcome to Mythical Masala with Neve, where we are about to unlock the wildest, most magical stories from ancient India. I'm your host, Neve, and I get to take you on this journey through the greatest legends of Indian mythology. From magical myths to brave heroes and tricky demons, these stories are packed with action and some pretty cool life lessons. Ready? Let's jump in! 12 years is a long time to wait, especially when you're exiled, heartbroken, and carrying the weight of a lost kingdom. But in the forests, between all the adventures and hardships, the Pandavas also found something unexpected.
What is it? More magical things? Weapons? Gold?
Stories.
That sounds boring.
In fact, it was the opposite. Some stories were magical. Some were heartbreaking. All of them carried lessons that would one day help them face what was coming.
So you are saying story time wasn't just for entertainment? It was like training?
Exactly. Like a secret prep course in dharma, patience, and survival, taught by sages, travelers, even the forest itself.
That's so cool. We've got a special episode today. Because I'm not telling these stories alone. You'll hear from one of our mythical masala friends who's joining us to bring these tales to life.
So today, we're leaving behind weapons and warriors and heading deep into the world of stories and storytellers. The forest was quiet, but not still. The Pandavas were waiting for time to pass, for Arjun to return, and for something, anything to change. Then one day, two very familiar footsteps echoed through the trees.
Is it one of our mythical masala friends? Or is it...
It was Krishna and Balram. They came not with weapons, but with wisdom, to talk, to plan, and to check in on their favorite 5 brothers. Bhim, as usual, was ready for battle. I say we gather our allies and march to Hastinapur now.
Well, not the most patient Pandav.
Well, many others agreed. Armies were ready, friends were loyal, and injustice had already been served.
Yeah, and Bhim's been waiting to break Duryodhan's thigh for like a long time now.
But Krishna calmed them all. This is your battle, he said, and you will win it. But on the right day, with the right weapons. Let us wait for Arjun. And just as everyone settled into an uneasy silence, another figure stepped into the clearing. A sage. Old, wise, calm as the Himalayas.
Now, who can that be?
Sage Brihadashva. He was welcomed with folded hands, and Yudhishthir, tired and heavy with sorrow, unburdened his heart. I've lost everything, he said. My kingdom, my honor. I live in exile, waiting endlessly. And worst of all, I can't stop this feeling that I am the most unfortunate man alive.
Oh, that's hard, especially for someone like Yudhishthir, who was all about dharma and duty.
The sage looked at Yudhishthir gently. Don't waste your energy on self-pity. You may have lost much, but you are not alone. You still have your brothers, your wife, your teachers, your friends. You still have hope.
So true. Sometimes we tend to focus on what we don't have, often forgetting about the things we do have. In short, the sage was saying, look at the glass half full.
Then the sage told him a story, one that Yudhishthir would never forget. A story of a king, one who also played a game of dice and lost everything. But unlike Yudhishthir, He wandered the forest alone. No brothers, no shelter, not even his wife by his side.
Who was this king?
Not just a king, but someone who became a madman. And his story begins right now. Welcome, Avyan, one of our Mythical Masala listeners and my friend, who's joining me today on this storyful journey.
Hey everyone, I'm excited to be here. Can't wait to share these interesting stories full of wisdom with you all.
The sage began. Long ago, there lived a noble king named Nala, ruler of Nishad. Strong, wise, and kind-hearted, Nala ruled a vast kingdom. But there was one thing missing from his life.
Ooh, was it love?
Yes, it was love. One day, Nala spotted a magical swan in his garden. He gently caught it, but instead of panicking, the swan spoke.
Talking birds? It's officially a fairy tale.
The swan said, "Release me, noble king, and I will tell you about the most graceful princess in the three worlds, Damayanti, daughter of the king of Vidarbha." Nala let the bird go, and in return, the swan flew to Damayanti and told her all about Nala.
So the swan was a messenger and matchmaker?
Soon after, Damayanti held a Swayamvar, a grand event where a princess chooses her husband. All the mighty kings and gods arrived, including Nal.
I feel like there's a but coming here.
But here's where things got tricky. On his way to the Swayamvar, Nal met not one, not two, but four gods: Indra, Agni, Varun, and Yama. They had also come to propose to Damayanti, and they had one small favor. Could you tell her to marry one of us instead of you?
Wait, what? They wanted him to promote his rivals?
Yup, but Nala was too noble to say no, so he passed on the message. But guess what? At the ceremony, Damayanti ignored the gods and garlanded Nala.
Whoa! That takes guts. The swan had definitely worked its magic.
And the gods? Oh, they were not happy. Later, they arranged a game of dice, and Nala lost everything. His kingdom, his clothes, his peace of mind. And so, Nala and Damayanti left for the forest, heartbroken and in exile.
Sounds familiar.
Right? That's why sage Brihadashva chose this story. It gets even harder. One night, full of guilt, Nala left his sleeping wife in the forest and wandered off alone. Damayanti, shocked and heartbroken, eventually made her way back to her parents, alone and exhausted.
So Nala is all alone, with no family around? That's sure to drive anyone mad.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Nala's body had changed. A curse made him ugly and unrecognizable. He took the name Bahuka and became a servant to King Rituparna of Ayodhya.
Poor guy. But this is not a happy story. And what's the lesson here?
Hold on, fate wasn't done yet. From the palace in Vidarbha, Damayanti came up with a plan. She announced a second Swayamvar, not because she wanted to remarry, but because she knew Nala would hear about it.
That is brilliant.
It worked. Nal, now Bahuka, came with his master. And though he looked different, Damayanti recognized his soul. They were reunited. Nal, now wiser and better at gambling, thanks to King Rituparna, returned to reclaim his throne. He won back everything, not just his kingdom, but his true self.
So Nala had to lose it all to find what really mattered?
Exactly. And Yudhishthir listened to every word, because this wasn't just Nala's story. It was a mirror, showing him what patience, love, and self-mastery could look like. The Pandavas were still waiting. Arjun had now been gone for 5 long years. And even though the Akshayapatra kept their bellies full, their hearts were still hungry for hope. To pass the time and feed their minds, they journeyed to holy places with sage Lamasa and their priest Damya.
Ah, yes, the hiking/pilgrimage expedition. But how much can one do all that?
At every stop, they heard stories. Some inspiring, some terrifying, some just plain weird.
Ooh, weird stories are the best stories. So are you sharing more stories with us?
Yes, it begins with a riddle from the past. Sage Agastya, one of the most powerful sages in all of India, saw something disturbing. The spirits of his ancestors dangling upside down in the sky.
Wait, what? That's creepy. And this is not even a Halloween episode.
Yup, they were literally hanging in limbo. And they told Agastya that their souls could only be freed if he had children.
Really? That's an interesting way to get out of limbo.
So, the mighty sage, who had never even thought about marriage, had to find a wife. Now here's where the universe gets a little clever. The king of Vidarbha came to Agastya seeking blessings for a child. Agastya blessed him with a daughter. Her name was Lopamudra, and when the girl grew up, she became Agastya's wife.
Technically, the sage would be much older, but I guess that's a great way to find a wife.
Yes, but married life wasn't easy for the poor couple. How do you raise a family in the middle of the forest with 0 rupees? Lopamudra, strong and wise, said,
My lord, I do want a family, but can we please earn some money first?
Agastya agreed and set off to find a way to earn some honest gold.
But this is a story, remember? So of course the answer wasn't a job ad or a forest ATM.
Correct. It was a demon.
Of course it was a demon. I think an honest job seems like a better option.
Enter Ilvala, a wicked demon who hated Brahmins. He and his brother Vatapi had a horrifying habit.
What is that?
Ilvala would magically turn Vatapi into a goat. Then he'd cook him into a delicious stew and serve it to a Brahmin guest. Once the guest had eaten the meat,
No. Ew, are you telling me Halloween stories?
Ilvala would shout, Vatapi, come out. Vatapi would explode back out of the poor Brahmin's body, killing him in the process.
Oh, that's gross and the worst dinner surprise ever. Okay, so why is Sage Agastya thinking of these demons?
One day, they invited Sage Agastya. Vatapi was cooked, stew was served, Agastya ate it all. Ilvala smirked.
It's better and well for the sage.
Vatapi, come out, said Ilvala. Silence. Agastya wiped his mouth and calmly said, Oh, sorry, I already digested him.
Wow, how come none of the others did that?
Well, they probably didn't, and this is a powerful sage, remember? Ilvala was horrified. He fell at Agastya's feet and offered him anything to spare his life.
Ah, now I see the sage's trick.
Agastya asked for wealth to support Lopamudra and their future family. And just like that, the curse of the ancestors was broken. Agastya and Lopamudra were blessed with a brilliant son, and peace returned to their forest home.
Okay, new life motto. Never mess with the sage's stomach.
especially if that sage is Agastya. Next up in the Forest Tales, a story about rain, a forest sage, and a royal plan that's, well, kinda sneaky.
Let me guess. There's a magic umbrella and a dancing cloud?
Not quite, but it starts in a forest, like many of our stories. There, in a peaceful ashram surrounded by birdsong and banyan trees, lived Rishyashringa, the son of the powerful sage Vibhandaka. Now, Rishyashringa was pure.
Pure? As in clean?
No, I don't mean he just washed his hands before eating. He had never seen a city, never spoken to a woman, and never left the forest. And he has a very strict father.
So, he had never heard of fashion, music, or mango ice cream? He was basically the ultimate forest introvert?
Exactly. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Anga, things were looking grim. No rain, no crops, total drought. King Romapada was desperate. He asked his sages, "What can I do to bring the rains?"
I know. Sing some songs to the rain gods, or better yet, do meditation and penance.
Not quite. The answer? Bring Rishyashringa to your city. His purity will call down the clouds.
Interesting. So did the king just walk into the forest and say hi?
Nope, too risky. Vibhandaka would never allow it. So the king sent a group of girls. Smart, graceful, charming girls who knew just how to talk and laugh, and maybe convince a certain sheltered sage to follow them home.
Tempting this poor guy with the royal girl gang on a rain-making mission.
Yep. When the girls entered the forest, Rishyashringa was shocked. Who were these creatures? Why did they smell so different? Why were they singing?
He had never seen girls before? Or just beautiful royal girls?
They gave him sweets, told him stories, played little games. And when they finally invited him to visit the city, he agreed. The moment his foot touched Anga's soil, boom. Rain poured from the sky. Thunder rolled. Crops cheered. Pigeons danced.
Okay, maybe not the pigeons. More like peacocks?
Yes. King Romapada was thrilled. As promised, he offered Rishyashringa his daughter, Princess Shanta, in marriage. Now here's the twist. Rishyashringa's dad, the stern and silent Vibhandaka, found out.
And he was furious. Of course. This is starting to sound like a Bollywood story. A boy meets girl, falls in love, and enter evil father opposing the union.
Yeah, he stormed into the kingdom, ready to drag his son back to the forest. But when he saw Shanta, radiant, kind, and devoted, and saw how happy his son was, his anger melted.
Aww.
He blessed the couple and said, "Finish your duty here, then return to the forest and continue our path." And that's exactly what they did. Not all lessons in the forest came from swords or sages. Some came from surprise visits, like the one from Sage Markandeya.
He's the eternal youth guy, right? The sage who never gets old?
Yup, the one and only. And when he visited the Pandavas in exile, he noticed something weighing on Yudhishthira's mind. All this waiting, this injustice, the hurt, the helplessness. So Markandeya sat beside him and said, "Let me tell you a story."
And we know by now, when a rishi says that, it's gonna be good.
Our story begins with a sage named Kaushika. Kaushika was deep in meditation under a shady tree. When, flop, A bird above him, a crane, dropped something very unholy on his head.
Oh no! Not bird poop during meditation.
Exactly that. Furious, Kashika looked up at the crane in rage, and in that one angry glare, the bird fell down dead.
This where the phrase, if looks could kill, originate?
Yeah, maybe. But Kashika was shocked. His anger had literally taken a life. He realized, this is not power. This is poison. So he wandered, hoping to become wiser.
Like a self-imposed exile?
One day, he stopped at a simple house, asking for alms. The woman inside was busy, tending lovingly to her sick husband. She made him wait. When she finally came out with food, Kashika was not happy. He grumbled, scolded, and acted all sagey and superior.
Well, he hasn't learned his lesson yet. Maybe he just needed anger management classes.
But the woman calmly looked at him and said,
I'm not a crane. Your anger doesn't scare me. I was doing my duty, caring for someone who depends on me.
Calm and savage. I like her.
She didn't stop there. She told Kashika,
If you really want to understand Dharma, go meet Dharmavyada of Mithila.
Kashika expected a wise priest or maybe a scholar. But guess what? Dharmavyada turned out to be a butcher.
Wait, the guy who cuts meat? That Dharmavadya?
That's the one. Kashika was skeptical. But he watched as the butcher closed his shop, washed up, and quietly went home. There, Dharmavyada cared for his elderly parents with such devotion and joy, cooking, cleaning, even massaging their feet. And they glowed with love for him.
So Dharma wasn't about robes or rituals. It was about love, service, and doing your duty with heart.
Exactly. Kashika was humbled, and Markandeya smiled as he finished telling this story to Yudhishthir. He said, You may be in exile, you may be suffering, but you still have duties as a brother, husband, son, and future king. And doing your duty is well the highest path of all. When you think of the Mahabharata, you might picture wars, weapons, big speeches, bigger battles. But sometimes the most powerful moments aren't shouted on a battlefield, they're whispered in a forest.
Like a butcher teaching Dharma, a sage learning patience, or a king in exile realizing he's not alone in his pain.
This episode wasn't about winning or losing. It was about understanding. The kind that makes you just a little more ready for what's ahead.
I really enjoyed listening to these stories. Thank you to our very lovely co-host, Avyan, for joining us today. And now, with Arjun still away and the war still far, the forest has more stories to tell.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with your friends and family. If you'd like to share a story with us, send a voice note to Neve at mythicalmasalapodcast.com and we will make sure to include it in a future episode. We'll see you next time with more magical tales and more lessons hidden in the leaves. Until then,
Stay curious, stay kind, and stay mythical.
Thanks for joining me on another magical adventure here at Mythical Masala with Neve. I hope you enjoyed today's tale and learned something new about the legends of ancient India. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Got questions or a favorite myth you love to hear? Send them my way. You can follow us at Mythical Masala Podcast on social media for more updates, behind the scenes fun, and to be part of our mythical community. Make sure to share this podcast with your friends and family and have them join in on the fun. Until next time, remember, Every great adventure starts with a little curiosity and imagination. See you soon!